Well, I couldn't have asked for a better introduction. That was great. Loved all the references and all of the good kind of hard, cold facts. So appreciate that. I was going to kick this off with something that I've learned from our president, Dan Ammon. Whenever he does things like this, he kind of does a little poll of the room. So you guys work with me here. So, you know, of course, everybody thinks that the world needs to lower their emissions, but that is a really lofty goal when you really start thinking about that and start thinking about it, what it means for you. How many of you would actually pay an extra 40% on your electric bill to do that? Couple, good. How about 15%? Better. How about an extra 5%? Wow. Okay, I'm gonna have to go even lower, huh? 2%? So when you talk to folks, it really helps put it into perspective about what it means for them. But that is the challenge, and that is the challenge that ExxonMobil and Low Carbon Solutions, all of us are trying to get to, is to figure out how to get those costs down, how to do that so that we can help the world reach this goal. There's a lot of things that need to happen, and we are ready to embrace that challenge. We're trying to inspire others by building momentum, putting cash in the ground, innovating with our technology. We've got folks working around the clock, and just demonstrating that it can be done. It's a really important challenge for us to do, and we're going to talk a little bit about it today. So I was going to start with just a little bit about our strategy, and then show you some pictures. Uday asked me to come in and share an update on some of the projects that we've been working on, so really, really excited to do that today. So, but let's start with some context, just really quickly here. So in energy-related CO2, our low-carbon sector focus is really on serving those hard to decarbonize sectors: power generation, industrial applications, and heavy commercial transportation. And this makes up over 80% of that daunting 33 billion million tons of CO2 emissions in 2021. And to serve these markets, which you see on the other side there, ExxonMobil is primarily focused on molecule-based offerings, things like CCUS, hydrogen, biofuels, all of these emissions reduction solutions, which are estimated to become a huge share of that market by 2050. And so why molecules? Well, it's pretty simple. That is our core business. It's what we know, it's what we do, and that's what we can bring to the table. It's something we're good at. This is our strategic choice. It's going to take all of us. It's going to take all of us to bring our best to the table to do, and this is what we've chosen to do. And it leads us to our key businesses that we just talked about. And I'm also excited to share that the new one that we've just launched is our new lithium business as well. So working through all of those strengths and those things that we're bringing to the table to bring lithium to our world. So I'm going to talk more about that later, though. That's a fun story. All right, so we heard a lot about value chains and CCUS, and listen, I'm a pipeline gal at heart. In fact, I first met Uday, I think, on the MPC study for infrastructure with the Department of Energy a while back, and have been working on pipelines and permits and infrastructure and all that kind of stuff almost my entire 30 years at ExxonMobil. And in our business, it is about infrastructure and the pipelines that enables all of these things that we want to have happen. So I love this picture. It's very, very simple, but I love this picture because it really all starts with that CCS infrastructure. Chuck's exactly right. That is the thing that enables everything that we're talking about. It is a necessity. It has to happen. We need to figure out how to do that faster and more effective from a cost perspective as well. So it enables so many things, right? And when you add the natural gas value chains to that, it enables so many more things. So we heard a lot about the low CI hydrogen, low CI power, low CI ammonia, all of these things that Chuck was talking about earlier. And it also, if you can go a little bit further, you can actually capture biogenic CO2, right? So CO2 from a non-oil and gas source like the air or the ocean or biomass, things like trash, things like that. You can take it in and capture that CO2 and even create carbon negative value chains as well. So the cool thing about our portfolio is that we are trying to be able to be a one-stop shop for everybody, for our customers and for ourselves, and get us through that entire portfolio of things that we're going to need to do to hit those goals that we've got for net zero. So we can help the industry and ourselves really decarbonize at a pace and affordability that works for them and us. So everywhere from, starting with natural gas to LNG to biofuels to low carbon hydrogen, direct air capture, credits, all of those things really are part of the offering that we're building at ExxonMobil. So you'll see lithium is our new addition on the right. And this is actually a value chain all into itself, where we're actually bringing our upstream exploration, development, project development expertise to bring to this exciting new value chain that we've got to offer and bring this precious mineral to the energy transition. So our job is to really accelerate that path to net zero by building this carbon reduction industry that is both, and this is really important, so both economically viable, so that's getting it down to the kind of numbers that people will pay, and at a scale, at an executable scale that is going to make a big difference. And I think you heard a little bit about that from Uday this morning. So yeah, I love this picture because it's about all of our value chains. So the enablers there, and I guess the pillars from all of that, a couple of things. So developing markets, building out infrastructure, and building out technology and innovating, and then advocacy. Super important, advocating for the policies that are going to be sustainable and endure, politicians and all of the things that are happening in the world around us today to actually get us to the future that we're trying to get to. So ExxonMobil, we feel pretty blessed. We're an integrated player in the right place at the right time. It's fantastic. A producer, midstreamer, downstreamer, chemicals manufacturer right here in the Gulf Coast where we've got favorable policy like the IRA enabling our low carbon pathway. So combining all of these things along with our people and our technology really gives us a leadership position, and we're working really hard to optimize that every day. But it's definitely not easy. CCS, as you know, is a really expensive and it's a really complex proposition. It feels so easy to jump up on a board and just draw, like the value chain I showed you a minute ago, just put CCS there and it enables everything. Great, okay, but it's actually much harder than that. There's lots of capital involved, very capital intensive, long-lived assets like capture plants, pipelines, geological storage, resources, transportation needs to be safe and reliable and cost-effective for long-term viability. We've got to create the conditions for success. Super important. It's a two-pronged challenge that really requires the stimulation of both demand for the product and supplying it with ease and cost effectiveness. So on the demand side, motivating policies like tax incentives are the most important demand enabler for us for CCS in these low carbon solutions markets. These policies need to be enforced very robustly and give confidence to investors like us and you and companies that are looking to be involved in these long-term commercial deals. You can't go out and spend a bunch of money without having a market on the other side. So we're working really hard to push that. The second factor for increasing demand is whether customers are willing to pay a premium for low carbon products. And as this push to net zero increases, we are hoping to see a bigger willingness from the public willing to bear that cost, paying more on their power bills, paying more on their bills to get that done. And then third, of course, is the need for the governments to unlock the permitting process and projects for storage and pipelines. Heard a lot about that earlier as well, and that's, I was actually I was at a dinner last night with the Department of Energy Secretary and some of the folks there and the Summit Carbon folks, and it's a huge challenge, and we're facing those same challenges as well. So again, taking all of us together as industry to really tackle this issue with all of the things that we bring to the table. Like, that's the definition of inclusion and diversity to go tackle this problem. And then finally, the CCS overall adoption will depend on the relative availability and low cost of carbon alternatives, right? So the blue hydrogen, electrification with renewables. I mean, we are believers in the all-in solution set, and the key is to find what's going to be the best for each situation. So that's on the demand side. On the supply side, lowering project costs is paramount. And that's what we do. That's what we bring to the table. We're working really hard at that. We've got to have more effective and lower cost technologies. Partnerships with key folks. We've got a great partnership with MHI working on carbon capture technology. We just announced yesterday our partnership with Zico working on hydrogen burners. So it's those little things and big things that really all add up as tools in your toolkit that we've really got to look at and work with each customer, including ourselves, on how we do this. We've got, I think, over $17 billion was the latest count, pegged for the next 5 years. And ExxonMobil, to attack this problem, about half of that is spent on our own decarbonization, and the rest of it is looking at third parties and taking what we're learning for ourselves and really working to build out that third-party business and help others reach their goals as well. So we've signed more than 5 MTA of CO2 offtake agreements and developing those associated projects that go along with that. We've identified and gained access to hundreds of thousands of acres onshore and offshore with the potential for permanent CO2 sequestration, which we're working with the government on permitting for. And of course, with the Denbury acquisition, the green line, we call it the 3 Ps: people, pipes, and pore space. Largest CO2 pipeline network in the US, adding more than 1,300 miles. And of course, located right smack dab where we are in the U.S. Gulf Coast and Southeast U.S. We also have access to over 15 strategically located CO2 storage sites. So we think we've got all of the things that it takes to do this. Of course, working very much hand in hand with our partners, our government, our industry, our customers to make this happen. But we're working to accelerate that. So let me show you some pictures. That's a little bit about our strategy. So here's some pictures. This isn't happening yet, right, because much of the CCS is underground, but we're working on all of our project prep and getting through feed stages for all of our projects. So as I said, with third parties, we've announced a total of 5 MTA of definitive CCS agreements. Each of those, really working through those commercial agreements and figuring out long-term arrangements. As you know, you can talk about this all day long, but when you get down into the negotiations of something, that's really where the rubber meets the road, and you start figuring out, the hard things that you need to work through, and we've done that. We're working through that, and every day it's getting better. So this project is slated to start in early 2025. And we've also announced an agreement to provide CCS for Linde's new clean hydrogen and blue ammonia production plant in Port Arthur, Texas. That one's slated to start in 2025 and will be integrated into Linde's Gulf Coast integration as well. And we need to deal with Nucor Steel as well in Louisiana to transport and store up to 800,000 tons per year of CO2 from its site in Convent, Louisiana. So these examples, again, we're hoping that they inspire others, they build momentum, and demonstrate to regulators and market participants and industry that CCS is important and doable in achieving our societal goals. So that's something about CCS there. A little bit on hydrogen. So our Baytown low carbon hydrogen project is something that's near and dear to our heart as well. So in January 23, we announced this next step with a contract award for FEED at our project in Baytown. So this started as a project working for our own carbon reduction, and then quickly grew to say we can do this at scale and start tackling some of the world's challenges as well. So this is an integrated low carbon hydrogen, ammonia, and carbon capture facility, and it's expected to produce around 1 BCF a day, 1 BCF of low carbon hydrogen per day. Now, more than 98% of the CO2 captured by the facility is going to be captured 98% of the CO2 produced by the facility is going to be captured and permanently stored, around 7 million metric tons a year. So that's a big chunk of that as well. So again, leveraging our Baytown site gives us the advantage of scale. So it really helps us and gives us existing infrastructure, steam, integration, staffing, built-in demand, all of those things that really will help lower our costs for our third-party customers. So we're working towards a final investment decision in the next 2 to 3 years, and of course, subject to government policy and permits and market conditions and all of those great things that it takes to make it happen. But we're out there working hard to get the project costs down and figure out how to do that. We're going to design this facility to enable our olefins plant. So BOP, we call it the Baytown Olefins Plant, to use hydrogen instead of methane in its process. So putting money where our mouth is and using that process for ourselves, and that's going to reduce our site's emissions. So it's an example of things that work with today's technology and today's economics, and it's really the next step forward in our journey to advance new CCS and hydrogen opportunities around the world. We've got teams everywhere working with governments to figure out how we can replicate the same sort of situation in their countries as well. Now, building this project at our integrated facility lets us take advantage of economies of scale, shared utilities, and then, of course, the access to pipeline infrastructure and storage. So that's the schematic of it, and here's a picture of it. So up in the little inset is what it's going to look like. That's a computer-generated picture. But the one that you see on the larger screen I really like a lot because it shows we're moving dirt. We're making this happen. We're out there working on our site and getting ready for this as we work through the FEED process and get into FID. So to repeat though, this is a lot of money and it's hard, it's complex, it's hard, it's capital intensive, and we're working with the government and Treasury to ensure that we get the clarity and assurance we need from all of the policies that are coming out, especially for the 45V and all of those things that generate the power that we need to develop this facility as well. So if it all works, we're working on that, and hopefully we'll be producing a BCF a day out of that plant. So then finally, our new entrant, lithium. We've been working on this for quite some time, and it's been a really cool journey for us as ExxonMobil, as well as just from a personal perspective. You know, it's something that's not normally in our toolbox, but something that we've actually decided and looked at and said we can actually bring a lot of our expertise to this to bring lithium to the world in a new way, a new and exciting way with a much lower environmental footprint. So lithium, I don't know if you know much about this, but lithium, we've been learning a lot about it. It's a soft silvery white metal with a very low density, and historically it comes from, or the demand came from glass and ceramics, so it's been around a long time, right? Lubricants, grease, metallurgy, air treatment, medical uses, all of those sorts of things. But of course, with the growing demand of EVs, batteries are now the top use of lithium worldwide. And it's also used for rechargeable batteries in phones and other consumer electronics, which I'm sure all of you have on your pockets today. So the growth in the EV is obviously driven by the effort to reduce greenhouse gas emissions associated with road transportation, especially personal vehicles. And of course, many leading automakers and OEMs have pledged to achieve net zero or phase out production of internal combustion engines by 2050 or sooner. So at ExxonMobil, we think that we can apply our chemicals expertise. So it takes a lot of work to take so what we do is we actually drill wells in the ground, and Arkansas is actually our place where we started working this. It brings up brine. We take the brine, we run it through a chemical process, some adsorption process that takes a little lithium ions and takes them, cleans them, processes them, turns them into a white powder that then we can get off to our market. So we don't have to mine for it. We can drill the way that we drill for oil and gas and drill for brine and drill for oil. And that's a much lower impact way to serving our EV markets. And we're looking for avenues where we can bring this, replacing open mines and doing this drilling, separating the lithium from the brine with these, proven technologies. We're studying on how to produce this vital mineral more cost effectively and with fewer environmental impacts than traditional open air mining. So it also brings us relatively low production costs. We're bringing all of our expertise there and our know-how for drilling. And it enables attractive returns even kind of in this low cycle market. If you've been following lithium, it kind of does this a lot. And we're able to bring some different perspectives there and some different technologies. And then on the market side, the other cool thing about this is we've got some pretty strong alliances with these OEMs already. We sell lubes, we sell fuels with a lot of these folks, and have been working with them on their technologies for batteries and figuring out how we can get our lithium certified to meet their needs as well. We're entering the business for the long term, and a lot of folks are looking for that and super excited that they've got production in the US for their US batteries, which is really important. So it's early days. We're drilling our first wells in Arkansas as we speak, and working very, very closely with the government there on all sorts of things like unitization and kind of the traditional stuff that we're talking about, as well as kind of new things and thinking about, okay, how do you do royalty for lithium and that sort of stuff. But we're super excited, and we're targeting our first production in 2027. And if, my president wants us to go faster and faster and faster, so we're working hard to push that date up as we speak. So, very exciting days for that on lithium. Love that story. And I guess in closing, just leave you with a couple of thoughts. So, first, energy transition's hard. I think you all know that. That's why you're here, you're helping. It's expensive. We have the people, the technology, the capabilities to do our part, but there's a couple of enablers that we really are focused on and need to help us do this. So the first one is innovation. That's key. That is super key. Taking all of these things that we know how to do and thinking about them in a little bit of a different way, in a different lens. Loved what Chuck had to say about that as well. Really working through with collaboration with leading companies, so people that we may not have even worked with before. You kind of find strange bedfellows in this space, but finding that, being very open to that, and having a seat at the table and figuring out what we can do to bring costs down and innovate together. It's an all of the above approach. I mean, we are all in on that, and we've got to work together. Policy is key. This stuff is expensive. We need supply side and market side incentives that are long-term and durable to support the types of investments that this needs. The market obviously must develop in the right, transparent way. Carbon taxes, carbon credits, all those sorts of things that are going to drive us to that carbon accounting that will help us all work in the right, honest, transparent way with integrity that we're all looking for to make sure that happens in the right way is important. But actually, most important, it really it takes you. It takes all of us, right? It takes all of us to use our brains, our capabilities, our technologies in a very different way to take on this new challenge. So for me, super daunting, but very exciting and really cool way to spend the next part of my career trying to work through this one and collaborate and bring different people to the table to attack these issues. So that is what I had for today, Uday, and I'm happy to sit down and talk with you and take some questions.
Yeah, that'd be great, Lydia. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks again for making time. In the run-up to we were having this discussion, and you said that it's now 30 years at ExxonMobil. So,
yes.
And you're a Texas Tech graduate and a civil engineer, I'm assuming, right? And you started your work in, I'm assuming, capital projects of some kind at Exxon. Maybe just give us a little bit of a flavor, right? I mean,
sure.
How you got into the oil and gas industry.
Sure.
And, that'd be helpful, especially we have a lot of young people in the audience as well. So that's
my favorite. I love young people. So my daughter's actually graduating from high school this year, so I've been mentoring a lot of her friends and pushing them towards the engineering and energy sector, and very pleased that she's actually going to go into energy engineering. So excited about that. So yeah, when I started, I had a dual degree in civil engineering and architecture from Texas Tech, also playing up there in basketball. And never really dreamed about oil and gas or that I would be where I am today, but took a job with Exxon building gas stations. That was really my start.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, gas stations, which was actually kind of fun, So I was this young engineer out of school, and I was in charge of these, $1.5 million little capital projects, and learned a lot from all of those contractors on how to do that, and just figured I'd do that for a little while and get my license and branch out on my own. But at Exxon, funny thing, they start developing you and give you all sorts of new challenges and running businesses and doing different things. So I've been able to travel all over the world, lived a little bit in London, working on things, and then just figuring out that the world was way bigger than Lubbock, Texas, than Houston, Texas, right? That it's got a lot of challenges and a lot of things to take on. But the cool part is when people actually work together, like the things that happen are fantastic. So I've been involved in a bunch of joint ventures with lots of different partners and have learned a lot from them as well. So kind of bringing all that together, every job that I've had, and I think I've had, I don't know how many, like maybe 20 jobs at ExxonMobil over the last 30 years, and everyone's been super different. But it feels like they've all been building on each other. So it's sort of like the challenge we have today with low carbon. all of the things that we've done, just continually reinventing yourself and putting that in a new and different way and addressing the issue that you've got there, but using those base skills that you have, those engineering skills, those logistical skills or logic to attack those things has been really key. So yeah, it's fantastic. And so yeah, I did not think I would be at the same company for this long, but here I am, and feel like I've reinvented myself a million times though, and that's kind of how it goes. But a big company like ExxonMobil allows you to do that, so there's a plug for that. But again, as we keep attacking these issues and challenges, I mean, 20 years ago the challenges were different. How to find oil and gas in the hardest place in the world, and but now taking that and turning that into, okay, how do we lower emissions at the lowest cost possible? Still challenges, and as long as there's challenges, we're ready to go.
Yesterday was Oil and Gas Day, and we were talking about how a lot of the refiners especially some of the integrateds as well in their downstream businesses are going back and reacquiring, fuel retailing assets, right? A lot of them had divested them 20 years ago because they had much lower returns on capital. So it's, when you said that you started your career on that part of the value chain, it's an interesting thing that brought me back there. So thank you for the presentation, very helpful perspective on all the different things that are underway at ExxonMobil today. It feels to us as analysts who are looking at energy transition and the large oil and gas companies and how they are going about this, right? So it felt like ExxonMobil took its time to kind of formulate its strategy around what it wants to do in and around energy transition. But then it feels like you just went at 120 miles an hour in the last few years, and probably that's what a company of ExxonMobil's scale can do, right? Once it kind of gets its strategy organized. When we look at some of your peers in the space, it feels like your approach is to leverage, to do a lot of things on your own, to deploy your own capital, to kind of leverage your own existing assets and kind of go develop the business. And then if there are gaps, of course, fill them through acquisitions like Denbury, for example, and so on. Do you see that model changing in the near term, where you'll probably look at acquisitions predominantly to, let's say, drive energy transition projects or other objectives in and around energy transition? Or do you think that you have the strategy kind of firmly in place, focused on basically leveraging, essentially doing a lot of it yourself and then filling the gaps with necessary pieces from outside?
So a lot of things there, and I'd say, first of all, having worked at a bunch of joint ventures, that is ExxonMobil's MO, is we take a little bit of time to really work through things. We go through lots of very robust decision-making processes, and we call it red team, blue team it. We think through things, we think through scenarios, but once we get there, we've got the full alignment all the way up through the board. And that's really key. So that enables us to move fast. So it may take us a little bit of time to get there, but once we get there, we've got that alignment and we've got that direct line in. And as things change, because if anything, this crazy low carbon market is dynamic, and it's so policy dependent. These policies changing all of the time really cause you to have to be able to be nimble and be quick, which I know probably isn't the word that comes to mind when you think ExxonMobil, but once we've got that base strategy there, we can be nimble, quick. I've seen it, we're doing it now, and have straight lines in to folks that are working through all the decisions with us. So that's really important, and that's what you see happening. So that's what you see as we're working through these projects. But we've also got kind of all of our prongs working. So we're also working advocacy, policy, and all of these things as well, alongside innovation and projects and development. We're not doing them in series, we're working them together. And that's maybe a little bit of the scary part, because this is new space for everybody, but we fully believe this, and we have to do this for ourselves. So we're working really hard to figure this out for ourselves. So that's kind of the context. But then when you think about where can we add on to that? Of course, we're always looking. We are always looking. We don't have all of the answers. We're working on that. That's the base case, and we're going to keep going and doing it. We're not waiting. But to the extent there's technologies or infrastructure or people or any of those things out there, I think you've seen us use those examples of all of those bringing in. We've brought in folks from the outside to lead our organization. We've picked up Denbury. We're doing all kinds of things. So where we can add to that, of course, always looking for that. But it needs to fit within our strategy and our strategic choices, and we don't take that lightly. But if we can make that case and work it, and it's accretive to what we're doing and can accelerate us, then of course, always looking. Always. In fact, in this job, I feel like I'm in Shark Tank, because every single day I get probably 2 or 3 different ideas, and I think, what? You can do that with that? but so much great technology out there, and we've got lots of folks looking at that and working on where can we make that happen.
I mean, one of the ways in which ExxonMobil is differentiated, even relative to, let's say, some of the largest peers here, is a much stronger and a longer degree of commitment to technology and innovation, right? I mean, I got my start early in my career with an internship at Clinton, for example. So I got to see firsthand what the scale and the depth and the quality of technical resources at ExxonMobil, right? So I think that's obviously a strength that you that you draw upon on a continuous basis. But do you see Exxon partnering more aggressively with, let's say, early stage companies, startups? Because a lot of the technology is changing rapidly. A lot of this is new takes, if you will, on traditional technologies. So I'm curious as to how is Low Carbon Solutions partnering with some early stage companies? So
we are, is the short answer. And a lot of these things are under CA and NDA and those sorts of things. But we look at all of these things, and again, where it makes sense and where it's accretive and where it fits in with what we're doing, we're looking at that. So I would say we're very open to that, very much looking at that as well. We're working ourselves, base case, always, but where we can add in and do that, we have lots of things under NDA as we speak as well, and just working through on how to do that. Okay. So yes, I mean, the answer is yes.
Okay. In terms of, so maybe if you can help us get a little bit of a preview or a glimpse of, I guess, how internally you are thinking about. I'm sure there's lots of other potential areas of, I guess, projects or other technologies or other business ideas in and around low carbon solutions that you're looking at. Like, are there specific criteria from a commercial point of view that you are considering when you look at other things to work on? Like, does it have to have a very strong tie, for example, within your existing asset base, right? When we look at a lot of these projects, probably lithium is a little bit of a step out, but then it leverages a lot of your expertise in and around drilling and chemical processing, as you were talking about. But I guess, how far of a step out do you think low carbon solutions is potentially considering, or do you think that right now you have a strategy that's fairly set?
I think we have a base strategy, but it's a growth business, right? And that's a little bit different from us. Oil and gas is a depletion business. This is a growth exponential business. This challenge is coming at us and coming at us fast, and we need to grow all of these things on how we do it. So we are constantly looking at different ways to open that up. We've got a pretty robust process now within our low carbon solutions as we stormed and normed around how we look at opportunities. And we still do need to compete for capital within our corporation. So that's really important. So I would say, from a commercial perspective, we've got to have a market. So where we have a market, and generally in this business, that's really stimulated by policy. So working very closely with policy folks advocating for this, working with markets, working with key folks that are out there willing to put money on and pay premiums for these low carbon projects and low carbon products. So working with them very closely to figure out what sort of project and what sort of product can we develop for them. And again, we've got kind of a full suite of portfolio of things, right? We've got everywhere from your traditional stuff to LNG as you start working through the energy transition, how we can do that. So sitting down with each customer, working through sort of a custom-made solution for them and how we work this is a little bit how we're working through it. And as those opportunities come at us, we can look at them and say, does this fit? Does this fit within our strategy? Do we need to change our strategy? Do we have the resources to do this? Is it, if you listen to Dan Emmon in our investor days, they talk about things that today's technology, today's policy, today's economics, but then we've got our eye on what's coming next. And those shaping choices, those things that are coming are really important. So that's a lot of what my team was working on, was really around what's next, what's happening next. And there's a lot of great things. It all boils back to those value chains, though. Mm-hmm. So things that are enabled by CCS, so things like biofuels and things like direct air capture and negative carbon credit chains. So things that we can keep adding to our portfolio to bring people their solutions is really important. So low carbon solutions was named for a purpose, right? With mm-hmm. that combined with our product solutions on how we can work with customers to get them there. So that's really the key. So I would say yes. I mean, we are working on new value chains constantly, and as people are bringing us ideas or markets or we're thinking about things, it's kind of bringing all of that together. And our little company, Low Carbon Solutions, is really the place where all of that is happening today. So it's a great place to be in. Very exciting.
Yeah, I mean, I think you touched on some of the bigger projects, but at least we know from the outside that there's other stuff that you're working on. There's this direct air capture technology that you're trying to pilot. There's this other plastics recycling stuff that you're doing. So it's pretty exciting to kind of look at all the things that's going on as part of the broader low carbon solutions portfolio. Let me open this up because I know that a lot of people have questions here for you, so I want to make sure that we give them sufficient time. Andy, on to the left, let's start with you.
Good morning, Andy Steinhubel with the Center for Houston's Future. Lydia, thank you for that very thorough presentation. On your value chain chart, I noted you had green hydrogen among the other elements, and was that there for completeness, or are there other things that Exxon is thinking about or piloting on that aspect?
Yeah, good comment. I didn't talk about that one. So we're pretty much color agnostic on this, right? And working on how we can do that for ourselves and for the world. So where it makes sense, we're definitely looking at that. Green, blue, we're working through that. Again, if there's a market, working on how we can find the solution to get to that market and the right technology at the right cost, the right price. There's so many different factors depending on where you are in the world. Sometimes CCS is not viable, and sometimes things are not viable. So again, we're an all-in kind of thing. It's going to take everything. It's going to take all of us, and working through that as well. So yes, I think it's part of the solution.
Hey, Lydia, Perry Ruthven with Priority Power, and thanks again for the presentation. Incidentally, our company was founded by 2 Texas Tech grads, so we're benefiting from all that knowledge coming out of the Great High Plains. And the quick question is about the salt formations in Arkansas. Are they also suitable for developing storage caverns as well? Is that something that's part of the program, or is it a different type of solution?
That is a great question, and one that all of our landowners are asking as well. So it takes a different geology to do that, so we're working through that as well. But I think right now that's not our focus. Our focus is really on working on the brines. Generally, when you're poking a bunch of holes in the ground, those aren't great for sequestration because there's areas for them to leak out. But certainly work that we can do to look at that and do that. Just not our focus at the moment.
Hi, Lydia. This is Ramesh. Can you hear me? I'm Ramesh from ABB.
Yes.
Yeah.
There you are. Hi. Yeah, sorry, the lights was in your face. There you go. Hi.
So, yeah, thanks for the very insightful presentation. It was quite interesting to see the details that was presented. One of the things that comes up is related to lithium, because as you know, that the prices have gone down by almost 78% where we stand today is where the market was in mid of 2020. So how do you think the whole industry with respect to the development of the lithium projects is going to take shape in US?
So there's a great parallel to a business we know well. I remember when crude went negative. So I think it's going to be cyclical like this. And so our key, what we have done and what's made us successful is finding ways to produce at low cost that helps us withstand kind of those market cycles. And we're working to do the same thing for lithium. So yes, I think that's really the key, is finding ways to have the most effective production and processing of the lithium, and getting some long-term deals in place that help you withstand those cycles. So that's our goal. And we've done that. We've done that for years. So really applying those same sort of principles and same sort of things to that development as well.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll take the next one. This is Roman Wolf. Lydia, first, congratulations on a lot of the very interesting and very large projects. I don't know if everybody here understands that a BCF of hydrogen is huge. and where you're going to put all that CO2 is also going to be very, very, very interesting. Also, congrats on helping Donaldsonville. I'm familiar with Geismar and the area and the community service, so that's fantastic. My general question was on financing for CCS projects. I saw a lot of enhanced oil recoveries, and I saw a previous presentation where a presenter was going like, well, this is great, and it works great for enhanced oil recoveries, but we're finding a really hard time working the financing where you're putting the CO2 towards enhanced oil recoveries. The finance institutions that like CCS don't really like enhanced oil recovery. Those two sort of don't marry up together. Technically, they're great, but from a financing perspective, they didn't. How is it that you're seeing that?
So from our perspective, from ExxonMobil, that's the beauty of us, is we can work through it with our own capital. So we don't need to work that. But still, we have shareholders and we have all of these things that need to understand the broader perspective, and our customers as well that we're working with to do that. So I think it's a lot of just about education and helping folks understand that. I loved what Chuck said, that CCS, I mean, you have to have it. It has to be part of the solution. And enhanced oil recovery is just a way to get lower carbon hydrocarbons out as well. So it's going to take all of these things. And I think folks that narrow in on one thing and start shutting out other things are really missing the picture. I mean, we're way, way early into this thing, and to be doing that. So from our perspective, again, we're doing things that make sense for us, and that we're willing to put our capital behind and working through, and that's, that's our key. It's got to be economically viable and commercial, and we got to be able to do it at scale. Those are really our strengths, and so that's what we're bringing to the table.
Maybe one last question.
Yeah. Hello. Hi, Lydia. This is Neeraj from SLB, former Schlumberger. So I have a couple of supplement questions regarding the usage part of CCS. So if you can elaborate how much of this capture part used for EOR and for permanent storage. And I think you mentioned briefly the containment part, not the priority yet, but I'm interested to know what is the economics out of this workflow you mentioned from the containment perspective, like how much it will be for containment and in the total workflow.
So it's a very good question, and one that we're working through now. So as we're building out the CCS infrastructure, it's not just about transportation and storage, it's also about the capture part of it as well, right? And so finding those sources of emissions, finding the best and most economical way to lay out the infrastructure, including the pipes and the storage, all of that stuff has to work as a network. And so, when we acquired Denbury, that really pushed us forward. It's got a pipe already and some storage sites as well. So now taking that and looking at the network of what that is, along with the emitters, that's a huge project that we're working through right now. But if you can think about it like a mass balance system and all of the things that it can enable, working through that and figuring out what's the optimal way to do it, That's the key. And so combining all of those things that's the work we're going through now, and that is what we will be doing, as a CCS provider, and as we're working on filling out that pipe. What's the best storage thing? What's the best transportation piece? What's the best capture piece? What's the best mix of all of that stuff? There's a lot of technical things that we need to consider, but then commercial things as well. So, we're working through it. But I think the point is there's lots of options, and finding the most optimal way to do that, to bring the economics to be affordable for folks, is the key.
Okay, looks like there's one last question, and then we'll wrap this up.
Hello, Gianluca Roscioli, Arculus Solutions. I just wanted to ask you, what is your take on mixing hydrogen into natural gas pipelines?
What is my take on what? I'm sorry?
Mixing hydrogen into natural gas pipelines.
Yeah, so there's actually a study, one of the MPC studies around hydrogen infrastructure is looking at that now. And I think that if you have the right metallurgy, then it works. Certainly the value of the right-of-way is important as well. So, engineers are looking at that, and along with PHMSA and others, and regulators, to make sure it's safe. But the key there is we need to make sure it's safe and it works. And if it works, there's later vintages of pipes that seem more viable for that. But as we work through that, it's a great. Again, it kind of fits in with our strategy, right? It accelerates, it gets you today's infrastructure, and works through that. So it is a great thing that we're looking at. We're actually looking at it industry-wide to figure out how to make that happen and put the right rules and standards and all of that stuff in place. But we're part of all of those industry associations that are trying to do that. But the key is it's got to be safe. I think Chuck said it right. You get like one chance to do this, and if you get it wrong, it's going to be really bad. So. Yeah. And we understand that. It's very risky, right? So this is all new stuff. So we're working really hard, and we have some pretty high hurdles to reach internally. But once we get all of that, we feel really great about going. And in fact, I think it was when we were speaking at the World Petroleum Conference, when ExxonMobil came out with, just in a very kind of nonchalant way, Darren spoke at he was the keynote at the World Petroleum Conference in like 2021 maybe, and talked about kind of our 2030 Permian goal and our 2050 goal. And I think the room just went silent and went, oh my gosh, if Exxon's saying that, they actually have a plan. So, and I think that's right. I think that, so kind of building on that and working through that, and the ways that we can accelerate that are great.
Excellent. Thank you. Lydia, thank you very much for doing this. Much appreciate this. And we hope you'll come back again sometime in the future. But thank you again for doing this. Let's give her a big hand, please.